Strap yourself in and get ready. The leaders in BBL Supercoach are incoming. Running in off the back fence to give you the ultimate insight to help you dominate your mates and climb up in the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight BBL Show with your hosts, Brain and Horse.
Yes, g'day guys. Welcome back to another Insight BBL show. The preseason content is coming thick and fast. Horse, how are you, mate? What's news?
Not too much, mate. A nice quiet weekend here in Victoria. Got to 36 yesterday, a bit less extreme today, but we're here to talk keepers, mate.
Yeah, we are. It's the position that I'm least excited about, but I think it's one of those ones where there are two very clear tactics around how you could approach the wicketkeeper position this year. I've seen people that are saying, I'm just going to fade the position completely and just get the cheapest starting wicketkeeper that I can and just work on the rest of my squad. Then you've got some other people that are really targeting a couple of these imports, a couple of these guys that are going to score well. But it's the Josh Inglis news that's really thrown everybody for a loop, isn't it, this time around? Because he was a lock in most people's teams, and now there's question marks.
You ever heard of the saying, you don't know what you have till it's gone?
I have.
Yeah, well, Josh Inglis, I'm looking firmly at you, my friend. I'm sorry for ever doubting you. Please come back. Yeah,
it feels like that, doesn't it? Look, there's still every chance he might get released. We don't know what's going to happen. It could be we're talking about the third test here, so we haven't even played the first test yet. So plenty can happen between now and then. There's a long time, as we know, in BBL Supercoach preseason, one day and everything changes. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. But we are here to talk keepers, guys. But before we do that, hit the like and the subscribe button. We would appreciate that. You can even turn the notifications on if you want to be, as Horse would call it, a triple banger. Is that right?
Spot on, mate. Like, subscribe, bell. Love it.
Yes, love that. Become a triple banger. And I don't know whether we can find a triple banger thing for the audio people, but if you're on Spotify or Apple, follow and give us a 5-star review. We'll have to find a third thing so they can be triple bangers as well.
Yeah, I think so. We'll think of something.
You can comment now on Spotify. There you go. Maybe do that. But Horse, we've got an unlimited group, don't we, this year? We're giving away some prizes for top scorers, Supercoach Champions ring for the winner, don't we?
Spot on. Group code is 650202. I repeat, 650202. The winner of the group will receive a Supercoach Champions ring, thanks to the guys at SC Rings. And they look delicious, don't they?
They do look nice. I wouldn't mind pocketing myself one, to be honest with you. But we give away too many of our hints to do too well. I think,
that's right.
All the punters out there just, are one step ahead of us, unfortunately. But that's okay. That's what we're here for, to hopefully make you guys beat us at the end of the day. But, mate, let's dive into the wicket keepers. We'll start things off, obviously, with we're going to categorize basically all these positional deep dives into 3 sections. We'll talk about the import price plus, so anybody 152K and above. We'll talk about the mid-range guys, which is basically anywhere from that 150 mark down to 100. And then anybody we would classify as a cheapie will be sub 100K this year. Now, obviously, at the wicketkeeper spot when I was doing having a little bit of a look, Horse, there's not one wicketkeeper that's priced between like 102K and 58K, which is wild.
No, like how?
I don't know. I mean, it probably just goes to reiterate what we said at the start of the show, that wicketkeeper sucks this year, and there's very minimal options. So I can understand why people are probably wanting to fade that position completely. I'm not. But there has been some news that's come around in the last 48 hours that has changed the way that I'm approaching my team, and we'll talk about that very soon, mate. But before we do, guys, we're obviously pumping out some Patreon content. For those of you that don't know what Patreon is, it's an app. You can subscribe and you can get full access to us. You can get write-ups, articles, extra videos. We've already announced our teams over there as of 29 days out, so you can go and check out our teams as they are right now and our thoughts. We did a video, I think a half-an-hour video on that. So you can go and check that out. There's plenty of deep dive stat stuff in there as well. Or if you just want to support the podcast, you can do it for as cheap as $5.95 a month. So you can check out the Patreon. The link is in the description below. Now, let's jump into things, mate. Imports or import plus price to kick things off, mate. Pretty easy start for us in Alex Carey. Good for him that he's in the test squad. Bad for BBL, bad for the strikers, bad for Supercoach.
Well, it is. He's been unreal this year too, just pumping out runs for fun in the Sheffield Shield and the one-day competition that we have here in Australia. We won't see him. That's basically that simple, unless he gets a run late in the season.
Yeah, that's right. Usually, I think most of the test guys are coming back around round 7. I think that's Steve Smith, Labuschagne, Kawaja, those guys. So, keep an eye out for Carey to come back into the team there. But, we won't be seeing him. And I guess the same for round 1 goes for Shai Hope and Ben Duckett, are both missing round 1 due to international duties, unfortunately.
Yeah, spot on. I think the only one really that we can sort of circle would be Seifert. He's the import price plus at 152K. And it could be a bit of a pod option with, we see on social media and people talking about Supercoach, whether they just fade the wicketkeeper position completely, but a double round 1. And we know once he gets a roll on, he can just score runs at will. Could be a nice little pod option in your keeper spot in round 1.
He absolutely could be. And he's been probably the guy that I actually just have left at my wicketkeeper spot for the most part. Probably as soon as the app opened, he was one of my first picked, and he's not there right now, but there's a reason for it. But I would call him probably the second best wicketkeeper option at this point, considering Inglis doesn't play. If Inglis doesn't play, I think he's definitely the second best option. Now, interesting stats, and I wouldn't mind quickly jumping towards these mid-ranges straight away, mate, because I want to start at the back end and work our way up in price, because Joe Clark, the news for anybody who has missed it, we're not sure on the price yet, but Joe Clark has been announced to be the international cover for Ben Duckett in round 1, which means that Joe Clark will come in, knows the squad, knows the team. He's played a couple of seasons there. He played for the Renegades last year, but the Stars 2 years before that. So I'm very interested in Joe Clark to a point where he's actually replaced Tim Seifert in my pecking order, I'd call it. How do you feel about Joe Clark, Horse?
I'm all on board the Joe Clark train. Loves batting at the MCG too. Didn't really have that good of a year with the Renegades last year, but if you have a look at the year before, he made that incredible century off not many rocks and just looked really confident with the bat. I feel like we're getting that Joe Clark back.
I really hope we are, because from what I'm seeing here, and shout out to JG on Twitter, does some good stuff on Twitter and SC Hub. He's done a comparison of the scores, the Supercoach scores from Joe Clark and Tim Seifert in comparison for this year in their T20 competitions. And we can see here, Joe Clark's actually been in horrific form. So I'm really hoping that something picks up for him. So over 12 games in the T20 Cup over June and July, 13 games, I should say, he averaged 37.8. So that's not amazing. I think if we look at his average based on last year with the Renegades, you can't see it in the app right now, but he averaged, I think it was around 31. So if we're looking at a price for him, we're probably looking at sub 100K. If it's in line with the Jamie Overtons and the guys that are based on their price last year, then we're looking at 82 to 98K Joe Clark,
100%.
which I think is too good to pass up.
That is too good to pass up. Yep.
So 37 average in the T20 Cup. He only had a 17 average in the 100 competition in England over 6 games. So you compare that to Seifert, who averaged 58.5 in 10 games in the Lanka Premier League. And then the Caribbean Premier League in October, so only last month, he averaged 36.4 across 12 games. So at the moment, based on you're looking at these numbers, there's probably a 20 to 30 point difference between these two players at the moment based on form, but we know that it's hard to rely on form from competition to competition, isn't it?
Spot on. And wickets as well. You got low, slow wickets, turning wickets there compared to Australia, hard and fast. The hard and fast wickets do suit Joe Clark a little more. Yeah,
absolutely. We saw what he did at the MCG 2 years ago where he got that 100. I'd love some more of that, please. But I think I guess the question now becomes, Horse, like the 152K versus the 98K. You know, you're saving 54K basically if he comes in at that price. What's 54K worth to you, especially with your starting side?
Lots. It means I can have Short and Maxwell and not have to rely on cheapies to get me through. I mean, there's going to be a couple that we bring up later, but there's a couple of players that we're both going to mention that are quite cheap, but we feel like are in for big years as well that I can squeeze into my squad with that extra
absolutely.
50K.
Everyone was looking at Harper, right? So he was the big cash free up 58K to take you to the promised land, and unfortunately that now becomes less relevant with Joe Clark in the team.
It does.
But we still don't know what the squad looks like. They might play Harper as a bat, or they might play Joe Clark as a bat and still bat Harper at 7 for some reason. They've done that before. So who knows what they're going to do with that lineup yet. But I would see, I think the way that it's going to play out is that Harper drops out from this team. Before we touch on the rest of the mid-ranges, the show is brought to you by the Standard Squeeze, helping you drink responsibly and conveniently. The website you can go to is thestandardsqueeze.com. We've got a coupon code for you. It's IFS15. Gets you 15% off everything in store. Get yourself a little 4-in-1, multiple colors there. You can also get yourself a squeeze pack that gives you the perfect pour every single time. So IFS15 is the code. Go and check them out and support those who support us. Let's go mid-ranges, mate. The rest of them now, we'll start from the back. Like I said, Joe Clark, definitely firming. Cam Bancroft and Jimmy Pearson are the two other guys that are sub 110K at the moment. Any thoughts on these two guys?
Both no's for me.
I like Jimmy Pearson a lot more than I like Cam Bancroft. I'll put it that way. Purely because I think the Brisbane Heat's round 3 double creates a little bit of relevance there, especially with the fact that it's basically out of Jimmy Pearson and Max Bryant as to who's going to open the batting for the Brisbane Heat. So, if he's opening the batting, I'm much more interested. But I think now with Joe Clark popping his head up at around that price mark, it just doesn't make sense to go away from.
Bancroft won't have the gloves either. It'll be Sam Billings there at the Thunder.
Spot on. Good point. So you don't get the extra keeping points there, unfortunately. Let's move to the more expensive guys, mate. Matty Wade, to kick things off, 150.6K he's priced at. Never really, for me, been a proven Supercoach scorer. I think if we look back to all Matt Wade's scores over, I think he's obviously been in the BBL for a very long time, since 2016-17. His average of 51, which is actually the biggest average or highest average he's had in 4 seasons. And he's gone 43, 41, 46. And for me, with what's his break even at? 50. No thanks. Not touching him.
Means he's losing cash straight away.
Yeah, not touching him. Who we got? Josh Inglis is the second on the list, mate. Obviously, I think it goes without saying that we're picking him if he's named.
Yes, 100%.
But the question becomes, do you pick him in your batsman slot, or are you going to play him as a wicketkeeper?
I originally had him in my flex position, but upon doing some research with yourself and a couple of other people, I'm going to use that position for my VC spot, but we'll touch on that in a later episode. He will be, if he is playing, he will be in my batsman only with that possibility to switch him into the keeper's position.
Yeah, that's the beauty of having a wicketkeeper in your batsman slot, is that you can then effectively use that wicketkeeper loophole if you are going to use a Jake Doran or someone that we'll talk about later. So I think it's smart to have one wicketkeeper in your batsman slot so you've got a second chance. But I don't know whether you need to do it in round 1 purely because of the guys on the double game week, whether it's Seifert, whether it's Joe Clark. I think both of those guys you could comfortably start knowing they're going to get 2 cracks at it. So I don't think you'll need your wicketkeeper loop in round 1. Who else we got, mate? Ben McDermott. What are your thoughts on Benny McDermott? He comes in at around 138K.
Too expensive to start. I think he's a potential target for later in the season when Hobart have their double, which I believe is the last double in this year's BBL 14 Supercoach. I think he'll drop price. He's quite hot and cold. He's had one really good season, then he had a down season, then he had an average season last year. You just don't know what you're going to get out of McDermott. So he's a definite no to start. But if we see that he's churning out runs and seeing them like beach balls, then I'm looking for him come the Hobart double round 7.
I think it's round 8, second last round.
8.
Yeah, so the Thunder have round 6 and then Hobart have round 8 and then everyone's on the single round 9 from memory. But agreed. Completely agree. Ben McDermott's such an exciting player and has such a massive potential. He can go 100 plus at any point.
Any point. He's one of the best, what would you say, follow-throughs after like a pull shot or like a flick off the legs where he just holds that pose and just makes it look really really pure without much effort.
Yeah. He does time the ball really well. He's a good hitter of the ball, and look, if he gets going again, we've seen it. I think it was BBL 11 maybe or 10, where he averaged, I think it was mid-70s that year.
He was priced at over 200K. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was one of the best options. He was the second best player in Supercoach in 2021, 22, where he averaged 73 across that season. So definitely a guy that has the pedigree. It's just, do you think that it can happen? I think just we can have a look, and it's not going to hurt you too much if you don't own him. I think that's probably the best way to look at it.
Spot on.
Tom Alsop, mate. Brisbane Heat probably starts. I have him batting 5, but I actually don't have him wicket keeping to start. I mean, anybody batting below 5 that's batting only and not bowling and not wicket keeping, it's a no from me.
I'm 100% with you there. Big no from me.
I'm trying to. Oh yeah, we've got the "It's a No from Me" dog audio in here, so I'm going to have to play that at some point. Matt Hurst, though, interesting one, Horse. I'll let you take this one because obviously with Inglis out, there presents an opportunity for Matt Hurst.
Yeah, it absolutely does. He's been making runs at domestic level as well. Top scored for Western Australia in the one-dayer only a couple of games ago. But for me, it's Joe Clark still. So when you're talking about Matt Hurst, what's he at, 117K?
Yeah, he's at that kind of second import price.
Yeah, 117.5. Yep. And then you'll have Joe Clark who come in, we estimated under 100K, and then Joe Clark on the double. It's hard to justify going another way to start with for me.
Yeah, we're going to repeat ourselves a fair bit, I think, in this episode, purely because we've shown our cards, I guess, in terms of where our preferences lie in Seifert and Clark. But in saying that, look, if you want to go cheap, I think maybe we should talk about a preference aside from those two guys that could free up cash for the rest of your squad. Now we don't have Harper as an option. I mean, if you wanted to go super cheap and go Doran at 39.5K that we'll talk about soon, and you wanted to get another guy that was kind of cheap that will start, who's your pick? Who's your pick of the lot? Because we've probably pretty much gone through most of them now.
Sam Billings. Okay. They don't have a great fixture, but I really like this fit at the Thunder. I think that he's going to bat 4. He's going to keep. They're not going to keep with Bancroft. He's only at 111K, I believe. I'll have to check that. But I think there's huge upside for Sam Billings this year.
I'm a big Sam Billings fan. I love the way that he plays, and I just love what he's all about. He's just a competitor, and he's always in the game, no matter what, whether he's behind the stumps chirping in the batsman's ear. He's, plenty of energy, I guess, through the wickets as well. When he's getting his team through, the leadership that he brings to this team is huge, and unfortunately, you don't get Supercoach points on leadership.
Unfortunately not, no.
You should. But yeah, I'm a big fan. And as a Thunder fan, I'm really excited about just having Billings there in that squad. But yeah, I think that the schedule, unfortunately, just doesn't play into his hands, but definitely a guy that you could consider. My guy that I would pick if I wasn't going with either Clark or Seifert would potentially be Jimmy Pearson, purely just because they've got that round 3 double and he's around that 100K mark. He's actually just peeled off a century in Shield cricket. I think it was 2 weeks ago for Queensland. So he's in decent form. He's seen him all right. It's just the uncertainty around where he's going to bat for me that creates that cloudiness, which is why I'm obviously going with the more certain option in the guys that are going to open the batting in Clark and Seifert.
Spot on, mate.
Cheapies, mate. Let's cover those when I can find the little banner thing. Here it is. So we've got your mate, Tim Nielsen. Tim Nielsen's, I put Tim Nielsen on here. It's actually Harry Nielsen. It's kind of funny because Tim Nielsen's
That's his dad. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll put him on there. He's 58.5K. I don't know whether Tim Nielsen's going to come out of retirement, but Harry Nielsen, his son, is worth every bit of that 58.5K, I think it's fair to say.
No, he's not.
You reckon he's worth 39.5?
Oh, I reckon he's worth less. And I don't know how he became my mate. For those of you that watch the AFL show here on the Inside Fantasy Sports Network, he's almost like a Campbell Chesser. So he's good on you, Harry, for wicket keeping for the Adelaide Strikers, but unfortunately you will never make your way into the Horses for Courses team for BBL 14.
Not when you're batting 9. For the most part, that's where he usually bats 8 or 9 in this team, and no, it can't happen. So yeah, definitely no. Sam Harper was the other one on the list. Obviously, Joe Clark has probably saved us, I guess, in a way, but also, basically cockblocked Sam Harper as a chance to play games this year or have any relevance this year.
Spot on. Unless we see them playing either Clark or Harper as a bat only in preseason games.
I think even if they do play Harper as a bat only, I think it's still, I don't see him batting above 6. Not with that 3 to 6 lineup for the Stars just being so locked in. When you've got Bo Webster at 3, you've got Maxwell at 4, you've got Stoinis at 5, and then you've got Hilton Cartwright at 6. So
and then you're opening with Clark and Rogers.
Correct. I don't think that changes. That top 6 will stay the same as we see it. And then Duckett comes in as a straight swap for Joe Clark anyway, so nothing changes there. And then number 7 could be Harper, but there's no way in the world I'm touching Harper at batting at 7. I was barely considering touching him when he was going to open the batting, let alone batting at 7. So, no, a complete fade for me now. And Matty Gilkes probably won't play this year. Now that Sam Billings is here, it doesn't make sense for him to play as a batsman only. He's a no, but Jake Doran, mate, probably the best loophole option to start.
Well, speaking of blokes that are just peeling off centuries, only yesterday he peeled off a ton for Tasmania in the Sheffield Shield.
Bloody good player, Jake Doran. I played a little bit of cricket with him growing up. I think I was a couple of years above him, but I played with his brother Luke Doran a fair bit in junior cricket and stuff coming up. So talented family. They're both really solid cricketers, but I think the only thing that gets in Jake Doran's way is that he would have to play as a bat. He can wicketkeep. He's a wicketkeeper as well, but they've got Matt Wade, they've got Ben McDermott, and they've got Shai Hope that can all keep. So I think he's probably 4th in line for the gloves, which means that it just doesn't really present much opportunity for him to play, which I'm honestly, no offense to Jake Doran or anybody out there, but I really hope he doesn't, because then that creates the best loophole option in the competition for us. Yeah.
Strategy-wise, we hope you don't play. But from a Braino point of view, we really hope you get a go, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be good to see him play. He obviously, if you can get yourself a Sheffield Shield century, you're doing okay. So, but mate, wicketkeeper a bit boring. It's a bit of a tricky one because there's only probably 3-4 options max, and 2 of them are way more obvious than the others. You've just got to decide whether you want to pay up for Seifert or we wait and see what Joe Clark's price comes in at.
You're right. Just a quick one before we knock off for the show, mate. Who was the best keeper that you ever got to play with? Being a leg spinner yourself, like it can be hard to read a wrong and out of the hand or the flipper. Were there any that stood out for you?
Not really. Everyone's good at that level. There wasn't anybody that stands out that, was, a head and shoulders above the rest. Maybe I didn't beat the bat enough to find out. Who knows? But I must admit, coming up through juniors, I did find that obviously, I managed to kind of beat the keeper a little bit with wrong ends, and they were hard to pick out of the hand, so I'm told. But as you go up through the levels, mate, I played with Buddy Harriet, who no one will know, but still one of the best hands I think that I've ever played with. Country guy, come from like Glen Innes out that way, Tamworth I think he's from, and played a lot of great cricket for Northern Districts in Sydney, but still probably one of the best hands that I've played with. I couldn't get one past him if I tried. So no big names though.
Nice.
Guys, that'll do us. That's our thoughts on the wicket keepers. Obviously, if you want to find out a little bit more about what we do, you can join the Patreon. The link is in the description below if you want to take your Supercoach game to the next level. We're going to keep bashing out a lot of these positional deep dives, as we call them, coming up soon. I think we've got batsmen coming up next, Horse, so that'll be a fun one. The position that no one loves, but you need a couple this year. So we'll be able to find a little bit of the diamond in the rough for you in the batsman column. But that'll do us, guys. Hit subscribe and like, and we'll see you for the next episode. Catch you later.
See ya.